So, Dane, you said you wanted to talk about Brexit first or Hail Caesar?
I think you said that we should talk about Hail Caesar first because Brexit would be too serious and would turn people off from listening.
That is absolutely true. So, what's the movie about?
So Hail Caesar is a movie by the Coen Brothers. It takes place in the 50s. The Hollywood kind of scene, I guess. And the movie's just about this production company and the people who work in the production company, and one of their main actors gets kidnapped. And that's pretty much what the movie's about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Some people think when you talk about a movie, you should say whether or not you like it before you talk about a movie. And others think that opinion will become clear. How do you feel about how one talks about a film?
I don't think that it matters, but I do think that if a person is talking about a film, they're either talking about it because they really liked it,
mm-hmm.
or because they really disliked it. No one's going to talk about a movie that they just kind of feel whatever about, unless there's some kind of event surrounding that movie, like maybe like a 20th anniversary or something like that.
Right, and we're not movie reviews or critics, so we're not talking about something because we have to.
No.
So did you like it?
Yeah, I did like it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I thought it was really, really good. So
I think it was short, but it didn't feel short. It felt like a lot of movie. And I like a movie that can be under 2 hours and not feel like, wow, that was really short. That was too short.
Yeah.
So I think that makes it's hard to make a short movie good.
Right. Do you feel like that? One of the reasons I like my films longer is because I like character development. Do you feel like there was good character development?
I think that there are a certain group of main characters that are, I guess, aptly developed. And then there are a lot of other characters that aren't so much developed. But I don't think character development for the entire cast is something that you want for this movie anyway.
It is a big cast. We were talking about how we couldn't remember everybody in the film. You want to list off a few people that, not just who was in it, but like that stood out for you as actors?
Well, anything Ralph Fiennes is in,
mm-hmm.
He's great. He played Lawrence Lawrence, or mm-hmm. maybe it's the other way around. He also played the main character in the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, that's right.
Which I really liked him in. Mm-hmm. So he was really cool. George Clooney, I think, is always great. Josh Brolin, always great. I like Tilda Swinton a
mm-hmm.
lot. She kind of played two characters, so that was cool. And then there is, I can't remember his name right now.
Hobie?
Yes, Hobie Doyle.
We'll get to...
Alden Ehrenreich.
We're definitely going to talk about Hobie.
And, yeah, he's future Han Solo. So.
Future Han Solo. Yeah, I think...
And I thought everyone in the room was kind of judging him as we were watching, too, because you're watching with the knowledge now that he's going to be Han Solo. So there was kind of like a critical eye towards every scene he was in.
When you saw it, however, the first time at least, you didn't know that.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters, and yeah, Han Solo wasn't cast yet. I don't even know I'm not even sure if Star Wars was out. I think it was.
It was around the same time, definitely.
Okay.
But the Han Solo wasn't necessarily greenlit at that point.
I was definitely not talking about a Han Solo movie.
Right. And when you saw it that first time, did you feel he stood out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I first saw the movie, he was the character that I left the film remembering most, and the one I thought of when I think of the movie. The face I see in the movie isn't George Clooney's face. It's mm-hmm. Hobie Doyle's face. And Hobie Doyle is also the only character name that I remember.
Right.
Full name-wise. I know there's some other characters I remember, but in terms of full names, yeah, Hobie Doyle's the only one I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Mannix. I felt like it was the story revolves around Josh Brolin's character. And he's definitely the face of the film for me. But speaking of George Clooney, did you know that this is part of a trilogy of George Clooney films?
George Clooney Coen Brothers films?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, because I didn't know
surprised.
the second one.
What's the first one?
The first one is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Okay.
Which is based on the Odyssey. And it's, I thought it was great. But I like Greek mythology a lot. Did you saw that?
Is the trilogy all Greek mythology?
No. Well,
okay.
So
what's the second?
The second one is, I think it's a rom-com called Intolerable Cruelty with Catherine Zeta-Jones. Can you see the poster?
I kind of.
Because when I see the
Catherine
poster...
Zeta-Jones, yeah.
And
you're sure that's not based off some kind of Greek?
No, I'm not. But also, I had no interest in that film until just today when I found out that it was associated with the Coens.
Okay.
Because
did they write and direct that one?
They wrote and directed that film.
Okay.
And I guess apparently it's like he's like a bumbling doofus in all of these films.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
Which, I mean, those faces in this one was what he's all about.
And the weird thing is that's kind of how I see George Clooney. When I think of George Clooney, I don't think of a leading man.
You don't think handsome movie star actor. You think dope.
Goofy. I think because I know him most from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou and the Ocean's 11 movies.
Right.
Where I guess, he's not goofy. Well, all of Ocean's 11 is goofy. So, I don't know. I think of him as kind of silly to me.
Right.
George Clooney's silly.
He's definitely silly to me too, but that's because I know that he's this sort of prankster. Which sounds absolutely horrible to work with. Because I don't like pranks.
Yeah.
Seems mean. Okay, so one of the reasons I think this is a great film to talk about for us and this, like, in this setting is because a lot of the reason I thought we should be recording our conversations is because of our commentary on art and creativity and the creative process, but also the current world of commercialism and how it affects what art is and, art versus entertainment and how do you marry the two. And that's kind of what this film is all about. Did you see that? Did you feel that? Is that what the film was to you? Or was it Hollywood and old Hollywood and communism and...
For me, a lot of the film was about homage.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it was an opportunity to do some things that we don't really do anymore in films. Or if we do them, we don't do them in the same way. So for me, it seemed kind of like a love letter to all these different... Because they have these really long, extended, choreographed scenes that don't really do anything for the movie but kind of decorate it.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like a lot of it was like an homage thing. And I do think a part of it, to me, was just kind of commentary on this weird time in, like, movie history where this idea of, like, the fantastic was kind of at the center of everything. And I don't know if that was because of the political climate at the time or what, but there seems to be a tendency towards the, like, grandiose back then.
Right. Well, I think the political climate did have a lot to do with the grandiose nature of films. I was reading that it was during the Cold War, it was during the Red Scare, and as a sort of escapism, these kinds of films were being made. There's the big Roman, not historical film with all of its grandeur, similar to films in real life like Cleopatra, which was amazing and horrible all at the same time, in that it was big and it was wonderful, but it was lacking any real substance.
Mm-hmm.
There was, that weird scene with Scarlett Johansson where it's just like people swimming in water, and it was beautiful, but it was also
why?
Right, it was pointless. I mean, it was spectacle.
Yeah.
There's the singing cowboy with all of his tricks, and then we see a slice of that film, and it's horrible. I mean, it's really, really, really bad.
Does that have anything to do you think, with kind of the rise of television, in the sense that they had to differentiate what a film was from what could be on a TV?
No.
Because if you need something grand and big, I mean, aside from like a sense of escapism, which I definitely think that's part of it, but, a bigger screen will
lends itself to bigger film.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why I think the whole thing is commentary. But before I get to that, to answer your question, I think that television was on the rise. They mention it in the film, how television is going to put Hollywood out of business.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's what pushed Hollywood in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what is pushing Hollywood in that direction now, which is why you have all these
comic book movies,
which I am a big fan of. You are not so much a fan of. But I think this is very much what this film is about. You have this big movie, and it's entertainment, and what is entertainment to be, and what is art, and what has integrity, and what is storytelling, visual storytelling. A lot of these don't have much of a story that's being told, at least from the clips that we see of the films in this movie about old Hollywood. And I think that's kind of what I think that's what the film is about, essentially.
Yeah, and I think, without giving anything away in terms of story, I think that's kind of central to the character that Josh Brolin plays.
Mm-hmm.
This authenticity. And what's the word you just said?
Which one?
I kind
of went on a rant about
integrity. Sorry,
integrity?
not authenticity, integrity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's central to that character, so maybe that's further reflected.
Yeah, I mean, there was great character development with him. I thought he was very much a good guy.
Yeah,
like he was so.
And for anyone who is listening, this will continue to be spoiler free.
Oh yeah, if you're interested in knowing, I mean, it's a movie from last year. But I don't think you like we said before, I don't think you can spoil this film. But yeah, there's not going to be any spoilers. But his character does have there's his Catholic background, which we see in the first film, and he talks about how he hasn't been to confession in 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so that gives you a little bit of sense. And then when he confesses, it's like, oh, I told my wife I was going to stop smoking, and I kind of haven't. And true, yeah, you shouldn't lie to your partners. But like the weight on this man's shoulders about this, and then later, he stops off at home, and you have a little interchange with his wife, and you see he's kind of a good guy, and he feels really bad about working too much.
Yeah, I think it does a good job at, a lot of films look back on this time and look back on what it means to be like a husband, or what it means to be a wife, as this kind of like really arbitrary and contrived idea.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is they do it in a way where he's what the American man is supposed to be.
Right.
And that doesn't mean he like cheats on his wife and blah, 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 blah. He works hard, and he cares about his wife, and he cares about how his work affects his wife. So, he's a pretty like stand-up guy.
Yeah.
He's very much like an ideal and not tarnished with like any like sense of reality, which I guess when people try to talk about the 50s, they try to do it in a way that's kind of like edgy now.
Uh-huh.
So, it's like
it wasn't all sunshine back then.
It wasn't all, but he's very much like, So lying to his wife is a huge thing that's bothering him.
All right.
It's enough to go to confession, so...
Right. And he confesses to a few things. But I guess going back to that idea of integrity, and filmmaking, he's got a great line where he says, "The picture has worth, and you have worth if you serve the picture." And I thought that was really interesting in that a lot of the movie is kind of showing filmmaking and entertainment as nonsense and lacking value. This idea of like, well, you have to do this. You have to have the stars, and you need to have these points, these plot points to make the movie sell to the people. There is numerous scenes where you see screening or previews of an unfinished film with the little cutscenes of like, so and so scene to be shot. And I love this scene. I can't remember the name of the actress, but I thought she did really well. She's working in the editing room, and they're watching a clip, and she's like, "I'll put on some music so that he can get a sense of the film with music, even though that's not the music that's going to be in the film. It's just like, we're going to watch this, we got to get some sort of ambiance and this idea of putting together all these pieces." And he also talks about the work being hard. One of the subplots is that he's being sort of drafted by it's not Boeing, it's some big military industrial complex type machine, and they're trying to get him, and they're just kind of telling him, there's no value in what you do. What we do is important and it matters. Yeah, we're in the jet age, and we make jets, and people are flying everywhere on planes, and this is the stuff that matters. But then he also shows that they're working on an H-bomb. So this sort of idea of what has value and what has importance is interesting. So to me, that's very much what the film was about. So I find it interesting that it almost slaps you in the face. I mean, it's like commentary, and then exactly what the Hollywood industry was back then, which was just entertainment. You've got like a dance scene, you've got a highly choreographed scene, you've got a stunt action scene, and I kind of feel like they made this film talking about, the summer blockbuster, and they said, no, we're going to tell a story. It's going to be incredibly entertaining. We're going to fit in all this stuff. How do you fit in that stuff into a story of spectacle and entertainment aside from big explosions and the Hulk smashing buildings or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think they did it really well. And one of the ways that they did it really well, do you remember the scene where Hobie goes to dinner with the other actress? Yeah. There's this part in that scene where they're just talking and they're having a conversation, and it's very real, and I like it. They're not interesting people, I don't think. They're too nice to be interesting to me. Yeah. But they're both entertainers, and there's music playing in the background of this restaurant, and they just start singing. And that's one of the ways that you introduce this idea of entertainment with, storytelling. What did you catch up? Did you catch anything about the military-industrial complex when you were watching it?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of subtle hints about that, and because somebody's kind of like poaching Maddox, Josh Brolin's character, to go over into that industry. So that is there, and then there is the communism and capitalism thing. But one of the interesting things is that quote, "The picture has worth, and you have worth if you serve the picture." It's kind of funny because with the whole communism like subtext that's going on, right. I mean, this isn't said by a character who's involved in communism in any way at all.
In fact, he's just heard all the great, wonderful things about communism.
He's just heard about communism, and he's telling somebody in response to that. So it's funny because in a way that is kind of like this communist idea, right. That they're coming together to make a larger thing, and they'll feel like they have some like sense of ownership over it, right. or whatever, because they're a part of it. And that's something that's worth feeling and chasing. But it's funny because that kind of brushes away the kind of idolization of like capitalism in a way, because it's saying that's communism. That's an economic idea, and you need more than an economic idea to kind of get you through life. You know, you need to feel like what you're doing has some worth or some value. So it's funny that, because I mean, capitalism kind of drains that away from people.
Right.
So
I mean, that's the whole Hollywood machine in this film, at least, is, you know, we're working on this project and we're working on that project and they got to come out. I mean, there's multiple scenes where they're like, oh, well, we can't do this because so and so needs to go to this other thing. I mean, even at the end, there's like this little bit where somebody's talking about how it's still raining in Arizona. And that's kind of all it is. But you know, like, oh, well, that means work's not getting done there. Like, I thought that. As somebody who doesn't make films, I just thought, well, how are they going to film with the rain in Arizona?
Yeah,
you know, and that's kind of what it is. I feel like there's a lot in this film about faith versus ideology, but I need to see it more to get it. Did you get any insight to that?
No, because I mean, it's definitely there. But it doesn't stand out. I mean, I've only seen the film twice, but it doesn't stand out any more the second time than it did the first time. You know, it doesn't, seeing it again doesn't make me feel like, oh, that seems to be important. That might have been something I missed.
Right.
Whereas other elements of the movie do, like the whole capitalism, communism thing. I mean, that's kind of an obvious thing, but you know, that is embedded in other areas of the film in like little subtle ways. So that I noticed the second time around. But no, the second time around, I didn't notice any more of this kind of push and pull between religion and or ideology or concepts like that being any more important.
More important than the first time you saw it.
Yeah.
Was in the first half of the film. There's a conversation.
Need to charge.
Oh boy.
You need to get the charger.
Should we pause it?
Yeah, we'll pause it and
we'll come back to it.
We'll continue. Or we could keep going
and see what happens.
You could keep talking,
and then maybe I could. We'll just have some editing work.
Yeah, maybe if you want to go on some kind of like a tangent or a monologue right now.
A monologue. This would be a good time to talk about
whatever you're gonna say. Pretend that I'm listening.
I have more questions at this point because I've talked so much, but I guess we could talk a little bit about the faith and ideology aspect of it. There is a bit where in the beginning of the film where there are religious leaders kind of arguing about, you know, what is God, who is God, what's the real God, and it's all very comical, it's all very funny, but you know, it is there. And the end of the film has a nice monologue. Probably unplug that blue one. Has a nice monologue. There's a nice monologue from one of the characters within the shooting of a scene of a movie within the movie. And it's good. It's really good. I don't remember it, but it's really good. And you get pulled into it, and then he forgets a word. Yeah. Because they changed it. And that word is faith. Yeah. So he's forgotten faith. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. There's something there. I got to go watch that first part again to see. I think something here is there. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I believe that more so because those 2 or 3 little scenes where we see Brolin in confession, I think that they're telling us something, and it is again that sort of idea of the picture has worth and you have worth if you serve the picture. Like if you have faith in a project and you let it go where it needs to go, I think I'm finding what it is. If you have faith in the picture, or if you have faith in the story, whatever sort of piece of artwork you're working for, you know, and you just go with it and you let it take you where it needs to take you, you're going to have value as its creator because you're going to put faith in it. Yeah. Whereas if you worry about the money and you worry about the outcome, if you worry about the audience, you're going to get cut off. You're going to lose sight of faith, and in turn, you're going to ruin this nice monologue arc that tells you what the whole thing's all about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a really good film.
So the movie isn't just a love letter to the 50s, it's a love letter to films.
But it's also, I think it's a mockery of films in the 50s. The 50s are known...
But in that sense, it's even a mockery of films, because if you compare it
with
the films that are being released around the same time, I mean, the context makes it so that...
It's not. I don't think it's a mockery of films. I think it's a mockery of the film industry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, so, it's that industry aspect. But also, back when Brolin is talking about all the picture having worth stuff.
Well, I just want to say, the crazy thing about the Coen Brothers, too, is, the Coen Brothers are widely considered to be really good writer-directors.
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting thing is, they have movies that come out like every year or 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like they're showing people that you can make really great films in a short amount of time, and like kind of telling studios, they don't have to be these huge, like superhero movies in order to keep making them. Because some of the more creative directors or whatever take forever to make movies.
Right.
Like Paul Thomas Anderson releases a movie every 6 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't come out with a movie every year. What was their last movie, the Lou Allen film?
The Inside Llewyn Davis?
Yeah.
I don't think that was their last film, though.
Isn't it?
They usually do a comedy, a drama, a comedy, a drama.
I mean, I thought that film was great.
I didn't even know that Catherine Zeta-Jones movie was a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah.
So who knows what movies are out there?
Yeah, what other stuff is totally missing our radar?
And movies are so expensive that it's not something that I sit around thinking I got to see this movie, I got to see this movie, I got to see this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I really only go to the movies or the cinema when there's a movie that you need to go see.
Right. And what makes a movie that you need to go see? Because for me, it's all the crap that I don't want to... The movies I don't want to support are the movies I'm I need to see that in the cinema.
You mean the comic book movies?
The comic book movies. Just the popcorn films.
Yeah.
And...
See, to me, it's the opposite. I want to see, a serious film.
For you, is it about the support?
No, I think it's the better way to enjoy those movies.
I agree. I have...
it is... Part of it is the support, but, that's definitely not what makes me go out and see it. It's because I feel like that's the proper medium to best express the movie. If I see a movie in a theater,
mm-hmm.
I'm going to think of it differently than if I see a movie in my home. So if it's...
on your laptop and you go get
laying down.
Drink and Yeah. I think this is a great time to move into kind of what...
the Brexit? How?
No, not the Brexit. Into what this show is kind of all about, of this sort of Gen Xer versus millennial mindsets and viewpoints. Films don't make... they make more money than ever, but also they have a lot harder time getting people into the theater seats.
Yeah.
And presumably that has a lot to do with technology, and the millennial generation is known as these kids on their iPhones watching movies, which
feel
sounds disgusting.
So much of it has to do with ticket costs.
Well, that's the thing, is they raise the ticket costs because there's not enough people, and then less people go, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
feel like that's definitely what deterred anybody that I knew who started, illegally downloading films from the internet or something.
Or waiting till it's on Netflix.
Yeah, or waiting till it's on Netflix. Because they don't want to go out to the movies and spend, $13 to see a movie.
Some people...
Which is why I don't go out to the movies unless it's $13 isn't that much money, but that's half of what a concert should cost.
Right.
So...
Which is another issue I'm sure we'll get to on some other show.
Yeah,
those prices.
So I think that's kind of what turned people away. And also the internet has taken away our want to anticipate. Nobody wants to anticipate. That's why albums are surprise release now.
Right.
And I used to hate when a band would say, "Oh, we have this album and it's coming out in October, and it's May."
It's May.
And it's like, that's too long to be waiting. And then you get one song, and then like 2 months later you get another song. And
Right.
with the way that everything moves now and how fast everything moves, and the fact that there are so many artists and so many songs, it's not that you forget about them, but it's hard to sustain
There's also
excitement.
so much content. Yeah.
There's too much content to sustain excitement for that long, because there's something else you're going to be excited about.
Right.
So that's why I think now artists are just kind of dropping albums on the world, because
Right.
I don't know if that was turning people away from buying albums, because like the song came out that they liked and they're like, well, I already heard that song
Right.
I like. I didn't care for the other song. Maybe that's keeping people from buying albums. And now, because it's all out there at the same time, people are like, oh my God, I have to hear the entire Beyonce album.
Right, and
it
watch
just
all the
came
videos.
out. Yeah, I have to see all of it. And everybody's talking about it anyway, so, nobody wants to feel like they're missing out on anything.
Right, and I think that's another interesting thing is spoilers. Like, having spoilers has increased sales of things, I think.
Well, that's the point. That's the point that I was going to get to. People don't want to wait. So they start finding out as much information as they can as they're anticipating something coming out.
Right, because you have the access to that information.
And then this leads them to message boards, which leads them to people who do crazy things like check, like, what actors are in what movies,
right.
or where this movie is being shot, or where this producer is meeting this musician. Like, they know everything.
Right.
So that nothing is a surprise.
And that does take out some of the fun.
Yeah.
Definitely. So do you think that your generation, at least the people that you know, also want to go see films in the theater? And do they also want to see those better storytelling films than, the summer blockbusters? Or is it...
I think it depends. I mean, I don't think there's any more one than the other.
Right.
I have friends who get really excited about comic book movies, and I have friends who get really excited about Coen Brothers movies, and then I have friends who get excited about both. So I don't think that it's... Yeah, I don't think that... Yeah.
See, that's funny, because if I were to go back to a time before Netflix, I definitely knew people that just waited till it was on video anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And video in itself was not really that convenient.
Mm-hmm.
You had to go to a place and rent the video and return it like the next day.
Yeah.
Or at best 5 days later. So, I mean, it was just like, I'm picking up a movie to watch the movie tonight.
Mm-hmm. And that was expensive.
Comparatively, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, what's Netflix, like $9.99?
That's how the man used to get at you guys.
Well, no, because I don't really know how renting worked.
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't know who made money on renting.
Of, like, how much profit they were making to begin with. I'm sure that they were making a huge profit, though.
But I also remember a time...
Because I think that's why things like Netflix sprung up, and they were cheaper options, and that's what attracted people to them in the first place. Because if you go to, like, I don't know, I remember you going to, like, Hollywood Video or something like that, and you would rent videos, and I think there were price tiers, but new releases, I think, were $5.
Okay.
And video games were $5.
I don't remember.
But, I mean, you leave... And you have 4 movies, and you're spending like $20.
Whoa.
So that's crazy. They're like really ripping people off. But I feel like there wasn't much to do because there wasn't, not that there was less to do, but, you guys didn't have the internet. Well, you guys had the internet, but
we didn't.
The internet wasn't being used in the same way.
Yeah.
So really, they were just like, well, I mean, what else are they going to do? They'll spend $20 to have 4 movies. That's 4 days worth of entertainment.
And that's why I started buying used VHS tapes, because...
You would just record them from the TV?
Well, no. I started buying used film, like I started buying movies instead of renting them. Because I could buy it used for like $2 to $4 more.
Mm-hmm.
and I never had to worry about late fees, and I had the film if I ever wanted to watch it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was also a time when people were bootlegging VHS tapes, and they had a legitimate business. And I don't really remember. I remember reading about this more than I actually. I remember as a child, a small child, going in, getting like an obviously bootlegged version of like whatever cartoon I was able to rent that week,
Mm-hmm.
and like seeing some really just obviously this is a bootleg.
That's funny because I feel like people were willing to deal with lower quality easy. Well, because you're like a quality snob when it comes to video.
Definitely.
On your computer. So, you have to have the clearest video.
Right.
Even though, I don't know, 480, 480p?
Uh-huh.
Resolution looks fine on your computer.
That's okay.
But I'm sure you're watching bootlegs. VHS itself looks shittier than...
Well, here's the thing, is the resolution of the monitors back
Mm-hmm.
then was different than the monitors nowadays.
Yeah.
So something like 480 is the equivalent of an old television.
That's what I'm saying. You were down for the old television.
But that's the way... But here's
that was the highest.
Here's the thing, is the medium was made for the output.
Mm-hmm.
Like watching a 480 on my monitor is like listening to the lowest grade MP3 on decent speakers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that's really what it is the output is so much better that when it's condensed, it just doesn't, or when it's expanded to fit the screen, it just doesn't look like it's supposed to look. So yeah, let's see. There's the whole movie thing. There was a question that I had for you about the Deanna storyline. That's the Scarlett Johansson character.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking that's the weakest part of the film, and then because everything else is so solid, I'm wondering if I'm missing something. Because we talk about all this sort of commentary, and every bit of movie, there's all these different movies that are being made under Mannix, the main character. And within each film, there's some sort of drama that's not part of the movies in the movie, but in the lives of the people he's managing, because he's kind of sort of overseeing all these different productions.
Well, one thing that I did notice the second time is I think the person she ends up being with is the accountant, who was played by Jonah Hill.
Uh-huh.
And
oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't remember that the first time. And
she doesn't end up with another actor?
I'm pretty sure it's with the accountant.
Huh.
And I think that has something to do with something.
Right.
So, I mean, I think maybe you're going to have to watch it again.
Right, we'll have to watch it again. Yeah, it's definitely worth watching again.
But yeah, that is something that I would normally say I think maybe you're just putting too much importance on like a small part of the film.
I don't know that it's importance. Because I'm struggling to see, okay, the purpose it serves. I mean, when we look at art, you and I, we pay attention to what it's worth, and we criticize things not to tear it apart and to make it bad, but to better understand it, right? Mm-hmm. So in trying to understand, we've said that the Coen Brothers are considered to be greats in their craft. Scarlett Johansson in interviews seems like an intelligent actress in how she chooses her parts. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine she saw something in this. I thought her performance was great. I thought she was really funny. I've never seen her like that. But aside from that, I would imagine that there's some sort of relevance to the story, and the only relevance I'm seeing in her story arc or her storyline is to remind the viewer this isn't about George Clooney. Mm-hmm. This isn't about Hobie Doyle, which I don't think anybody would think, because Hobie Doyle's story ties into George Clooney's story.
Yeah. He feels like a side character.
He's
noticeable, which is funny because that's reflective of Han Solo. He's not the main character.
Right.
He's a side character.
Right.
But he's noticeable. So,
yeah, I think he's going to be a good Han Solo.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a good Han Solo.
So you didn't see anything with her?
I didn't see anything. To me, I saw a problem that they needed to give a character in order for him to be involved.
But why even have that character?
So that they could do that scene with the water.
Just to do that scene.
That's what I thought.
But see, to me, to just do that scene is to break the whole point of their film.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Well, maybe what you think their point
maybe what I think their point is wrong. Yeah, that's always a possibility.
Yeah.
But I obviously think I'm right.
Uh-huh.
No, so I do think, because her story does remind us that Mannix is the man that we are supposed to be watching. The narrator tells us so. That's something I like. Did you like that there was a narrator?
Yeah, I like narrators.
Loved that there was a narrator. That made it feel like I was listening to a story or watching a story. It reminded you that you're watching a story, which you can get distracted from by all the little stories in the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I wonder if there is commentary on with her and her story arc, or if it's just to remind us that, you know, this is the guy that it's about. Now that she gets tied into that he's not an accountant, but I know who you're talking about. It does make me think, wait a minute, I wasn't looking, I didn't pay attention to that part.
Yeah.
Which I like that story too. Do we want to talk about Star Wars? Or the Han Solo film? Do we want to just say maybe what our hopes are? Or
I think it's just the only thing to say is thumbs up for Hobie Doyle.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think we should talk about Brexit. Same approach.
Okay.
Did you like it?
Without giving anything away, Brexit is a...
yeah.
Am I a Brexit fan? No, I wouldn't say... No, I'm not for the UK leaving...
Europe.
The EU.
The European Union.
But for anybody who isn't that informed or whatever, if you needed to draw a parallel between who won and who lost over there, you could say that people who would agree with Trump won in the sense that they voted to leave the EU. Maybe. So, for people who don't know, yeah. That's the side. Those are the sides.
Yeah,
it's not as simple as that, but
it's really not. Well, I mean, you could
say when it boils. If you boil it down, the Leave campaign is all about xenophobia, racism, and some sense of like an isolationist type of. I mean, I wouldn't call it isolationist, and I wouldn't say Trump is an isolationist, but they're very much about Britain first,
right?
Who cares about the rest of the world?
Right.
And Trump is very much about, make America great again. Mm-hmm. Who cares about...
anybody else?
Who cares about the world?
Right. I think it's worth saying we're not British, if you haven't caught on.
Yeah. But, I mean, I did do research, so we're not... going, and I think you did research too, and you watched the news.
I watched a lot of news. I listened to a lot of news, and I tried to get some extra perspectives. Because obviously American news for international news is, at least televised, is lacking.
So can you just give like a summary on what
Brexit is?
Yeah.
So Brexit was basically this idea. Right now, the European Union is a group of European nations that have trade deals and varying policies. It was put in place to kind of keep Europe from warring with itself because it was after the 2 World Wars. And there's a lot of people in the UK that feel that the UK is putting a lot into the European Union and not getting very much back for it. There is a lot of people that are afraid because the European Union has a sort of open borders policy where if you're in Italy and you're an Italian citizen, you could go live and work in London the same way if you were a Californian, you could go live and work in Maine.
Yeah, they seem to be, the goal seems to have been to make Europe, I mean, not saying that that's the goal.
But as an American, you might.
From an American perspective, I can say that the EU was an attempt to closely follow the workings.
The great example
that.
of the majestic Americans.
No, but there seems to be a sentiment that's going on in that country that immigrant workers are coming in and taking jobs and threatening the safety of neighborhoods. So very much a parallel to the Trump narrative. Right. The thing is, David Cameron just did like a bad job at uniting his own country. So there's the public anger over a bunch of workers from EU countries, and a rejection of political and business elites. So that's very American.
Very, very much what's going on in our landscape.
Apparently, Angela Merkel was going to help David Cameron campaign to stay, but because of all the migrants that are coming in, she was distracted. And also because of the crisis in Greece, she was distracted. So anyone who was going to help, it was kind of like on the back burner, like, David Cameron will figure it out.
Right.
We got other problems in the EU going on.
Right. He's got that.
Yeah, he's got that, but he didn't.
The other thing worth noting is...
Then he made a deal. So he made a deal that he would withhold benefits for 1 to 7 years for migrant workers. And he was like, great, I made a great deal. And I'm sure Trump would call it a very bad deal.
It was a very bad deal.
Very bad deal that Cameron's making. But the British press called it, or the British press had headlines or something, called that a deal, Dave. Something very condescending and British. Yeah. So they didn't like it. And other people said anybody who cared in the first place, you were never going to win them over,
right?
No matter what deal he came up with. Place. So, it is a racist and xenophobic thing, and this kind of like other,
right? Like
that's them, and we need to worry about us first. So, yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it.
Okay, something worth noting is that even though the UK is part of the European Union, they're not on the same currency, which is the euro.
Yeah.
So this is why Merkel is worried about what's going on in Greece, because financial woes there equal financial woes for all of
and during this time, I guess David Cameron tried to set up some other exception for the UK and the EU, and the EU was like, we don't have time for this, David Cameron. It's not all about you.
Right.
So yeah. And now, I don't know if he resigned?
He's resigned.
He's resigned. Somebody on the Leave campaign, they used to be like friends or something like that.
Okay.
So there's all this drama there.
Drama.
Well, the reason Leave won and Stay lost was because the Leave had a better campaign.
Right.
And the Leave campaign was all about Britons and how we need to get rid of these people, and we need to take control back for our country because we're sending off all this money to Brussels every week, and all these people are coming in, they're taking our jobs, they're getting our benefits. What about the UK? Right. And that's a more powerful and motivating message to get people to go out and vote. Whereas the Stay campaign was like,
let's just leave it as it is.
Well, at the end, the Stay campaign's slogan was stronger, safer, better off, which is kind of, there's nothing there that
better off is not a very positive.
Yeah, better off.
Better off is like, well,
better off isn't motivating enough.
That's like,
it's saying, hey, I know things are bad. We're not saying things aren't bad, but we're better off. We're better off and we're safer if we do this.
So here's the thing
And then there was also this personal subcontext that was going on between David Cameron
and his party,
and this other guy for the Leave campaign,
the Boris guy.
Yeah, Boris. They stopped texting or something like that, and then they wouldn't appear in pictures together. Or there's there's some
drama.
Yeah, there's some hurt there.
Some hurt.
Yeah, and anyway, that kind of poisoned itself into the campaign where I think people were just like, oh, all they care about is themselves. What about us British people?
Right.
And that's what kind of tipped it over in that favor. Because now I think everybody is waking up and sobering up to like the realities of the situation.
Right. They're calling it regret.
Yeah. That's not real?
That's real.
Wow.
Regret.
I wonder if the person who came up with regret
came up with
Brexit too.
Yeah, this has to be something that the media came up with. This can't possibly be something that politicians devised.
I bet this only came up as a result of the ridiculousness of Brexit as a term in the first place.
Well, there's also fear.
Regret is so much better, though.
There's fear. Regret is...
If they can make this like a step program.
Right.
Like first there's Brexit, and then there's regret.
And then there's BrackTogether. Yeah. You heard it first here, folks. BrackTogether.
Hashtag BrackTogether.
Hashtag BrackTogether.
If you want the UK to
be back
in the EU, hashtag
BrackTogether.
BrackTogether?
BrackTogether.
I don't even remember. It's not very marketable.
No, it's pretty bad. So you mentioned a lot of stuff that I think is very much what people against Brexit were saying, and I think all of it is true. One valid argument to Brexit was that the EU is, from what I can tell, just a big, huge bureaucratic mess, right? And it's funny, anytime I watched a report and it showed a very old person, their issues were the issues that you mentioned. Anytime it showed a young person that was, or a middle-aged person that was for Brexit, their issue was, it doesn't seem right that we elect officials to govern our nation and make our laws and do all these things, but then people that we don't elect in the EU make all these other laws or stop the laws or basically get in the way of our government, and they're not people that we elect. So I didn't look into that, but that seems like a pretty good argument.
Yeah. But aren't younger people more for staying?
75% are more for staying. I did hear some older people say, well, my daughter's convinced me and my husband to stay, to vote in, which is interesting.
And, I think, I don't know, I feel like young people get shit on a lot by the older generation. And I think that there are a lot of problems with millennials, and not just American millennials, but millennials in general. But it's never the problems that they fixate on that are the actual problems. Like, they're always fixating on this, I don't know, they all think that, like, we're losers or whatever because we don't own a house.
Right, because your ideas of the world is not 1950s ideas of the world.
Yeah, and I think that that's unfair, especially when these countries are being run by these people who represent something that a new wave doesn't represent. And maybe that's what needs to happen in terms of getting this generation more involved politically. Because I think there was just this, I don't know if it was millennials didn't think that they had grown up yet, or they still don't feel like they've grown up yet.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels like we were like, well, the older people will handle that. And it's now, I guess, we're coming to an age where we're starting to realize. Well, I mean, I've always been politically involved since I could vote. But there are a lot of people who are voting for the first time or registered for the first time to vote for Bernie Sanders or something like that. And I think
they didn't show up.
Exactly. They didn't show up. But
that's what happened here as well. Did you know that?
I think them not showing up to the polls, maybe that'll wake them up in terms of saying, look, you're responsible for this. But I don't know if it will, because that was kind of the narrative for the Bernie Sanders campaign the entire time.
Right.
Like, every time he didn't win, I thought, okay, now the internet's gonna say, hey, you need to do this, and it did. The internet did do that,
but the people didn't.
But and people reblogged it and retweeted it or whatever. But still, nobody showed up, and there's a lot of there's a lot of accusations going around that it's some kind of like conspiracy or something to disenfranchise voters, and I do think that is something that happens. I'm not denying that. They do try to find ways to disenfranchise voters, but I do think a lot of what happened is people who supported a candidate just didn't show up.
Right.
And sure, maybe you have an instance of a story where somebody didn't get to vote, or somebody had to vote by provisional ballot or something like that. But at the end of the day, people did come out and vote.
Right.
They just voted for somebody else.
Right.
And the people who did come out to vote were older.
Yeah.
And that's something that's known. That's not something that's
right.
speculated
That's not a conspiracy.
Like that.
That's factual.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this kind of in a lot of ways mirrors what's going on, and is, for me at least, is terrifying to predicting the future, because one thing that you didn't mention, and I guess it's in more recent news, was the left party there. They have a lot of parties. They're not a two-party system like we have, but they have the two
got
two
like
strongs.
A Labour Party. They got
and
a
the Tories, right? And the leader of the
Conservative, and what's the other one? Do they have four?
They have Green.
Three? Oh, they have a Green too.
Yeah, Green is, and they have the there's a Scottish party.
They got parties.
Yeah, they got a few. In Spain. I don't know if they're in the middle of this now or this just happened this weekend, but they have. There was a party who was doing kind of well in the polls. They didn't win, but they had this big, huge surge. Who were also for austerity, who are also for Spain first and forget the European Union. So, is this a new political environment that we're in now, or political climate that we're in now, where the fear is kind of winning? Mm-hmm. And what does that mean for us? And what are we going to do about that? So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of terrifying in that sense of wait, is this the world right now? Mm-hmm. And the truth is no, it's not the world right now.
Yeah.
If you look at the UK, one, it was very close. Mm-hmm. I think it was 51-48 or something like this.
I think ultimately this is a pushback.
Yes.
Of older ideals. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that it's lasting. I think it's something that we're going to overcome.
Right.
And there is going to be a new age of the world that's more, I think, in line with, Generation X is getting older, Generation Y is getting older. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be part of the conversation soon.
Right.
Because they're going to be the people who are running and controlling things.
Right.
So, and I think that will be a huge shift, because I do think that the mindset is really, really different. And I think the mindset just between Generation X and Generation Y is different enough. But I mean, in terms of social politics and mm-hmm. kind of liberalism, I think that's a majority of how young people feel.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's just the Southern California, Los Angeles person.
Right.
I mean, I think it's definitely more progressive in California than other states, for sure, in this country. But I think that young people are generally leaning towards a more kind of
left.
Leftist perspective. And
right.
It's just different degrees of how left are you, because there are people who are, I would say that there's nobody that's even moderately left. It's just different extremes of
different extremes of left.
Yeah.
Different ideas of left.
Yeah, because there are people who are really, really progressive, and then there are people who aren't as progressive, but even their thinking is still in a progressive direction.
There might be a hot issue here or there.
Yeah.
One interesting thing that I found was that for particular people in the UK who the Brexit issue was a big deal for. Apparently, there's a small group of them who feel as strongly about leaving the European Union as Americans feel about stopping abortion.
Mm-hmm.
So that's saying a lot about how they feel about being part of the European Union. They feel like it's a matter of life or death.
Yeah.
And they feel like it's a matter of life and death culturally.
Mm-hmm.
What is interesting is the UK is these four different kind of countries put into one, with Scotland, Northern Ireland, England, and Wales.
Mm-hmm.
And both Scotland and Northern Ireland want to stay in the European Union. So now Ireland is probably going to be the most affected by this because they share a border.
Yeah.
You know, like the Republic of Ireland versus Northern Ireland.
And this is pushing, is it Ireland or Scotland?
Scotland's in the north. Northern Ireland is
more towards separating from the United Kingdom itself.
So
is that Scotland?
Scotland, like a year and a half ago, had a referendum to separate from the UK,
which they lost narrowly. But this is kind of reawakened.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like a lot. Now, Ireland or Northern Ireland has some issue in bringing up the subject. It's a little bit harder for them to do because for so long there was a civil war, is a terrible way to put it, but there was a bit of a war in that some people in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, wanted the island to be one nation, while some people in Northern Ireland wanted to be part of the UK. And there was a lot of bombings. Some would say guerrilla fighters. Some would say terrorists.
It's the IRA.
Yeah. So because of that, the ceasefire ended in 1994, I believe. And because of that, it's a lot harder for them to talk about unifying as a single Ireland again. Because when you talk about it,
you bring up all of that.
You bring up all of that, and you run the risk of people thinking that you're a terrorist.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Ireland and was gifted with a small little pin that was the Irish flag, and I thought, how sweet of you guys to give me this gift upon coming here. And I tried to put it on in a bar, and I was stopped. I was in Dublin. I wasn't even in Northern Ireland.
Uh-huh.
And I was told I couldn't wear it. They said, people are going to think you're a terrorist. You can't do this. No, no, no. And I was like, I'm brown. I'm fine. Everything's cool. And they're just like, no, you can't. Like, you cannot wear this pin. And I'm like, I'm not going to wear this pin anywhere else. Like, this is where I want to wear this pin. Like, but
wait,
yeah.
So did you wear the pin?
No, I didn't get to wear the pin.
Okay.
They did not let me wear the pin. I was not allowed to wear the pin.
You still have the pin?
It could be in a box somewhere.
Huh.
Yeah. No, I don't have it. I mean,
people might think you're an IRA sympathizer.
Exactly.
Even if you wore it in another country. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true.
Like, say you became famous by some stroke of luck.
Uh-huh.
And people are like, he used to support the IRA. In the future, when you run for, like, office.
There's a picture of me with the pin on.
Yeah, at a bar in Dublin.
Yeah.
And then nobody has any context for it here, so they're like, I don't know. He was wearing the pin. He was in a bar in Dublin.
Yeah, there was no smartphones back then. They were like flip phones, so I'm safe. Even if I put it on for a brief second. Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of issue with them talking about it, but there are some people kind of talking about it and saying it's something that we can look at. They, at the very least, want to.
Wait, hold on. Let's backtrack a second. The people who gave you the pin, are they part of the IRA?
No.
Are they IRA sympathizers? Who gave you the pin?
Some Irish folk.
Irish folk gave you the pin.
Irish folk gave me the pin.
And you don't know their political leanings.
Their political leanings, at least one of them has said to me that she does not agree with what the IRA does. But.
Okay.
There's always a but. They understand wanting their country to be one country. Her father lived in Belfast, and her mother lived near Dublin. So the idea of how bad the IRA is was real for her.
Okay, so what you're telling me is you are a terrorist. You are part of the IRA.
I am part of the IRA. I am a part of the Mexican IRA.
Mexican division of the IRA.
The Mexicali division. Should we
talk about music?
Should
we done with the Brexit?
Should we
40 minutes on Hail Caesar, 15 minutes on the Brexit.
Should we Brexit?
Should we Brexit this conversation?
To musics?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to listen to it again?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do.
If you haven't listened to, what's the name of the song? Can't Stop the Feeling?
Can't Stop the Feeling.
If you haven't listened to Justin Timberlake's Can't Stop the Feeling, pause this and
go listen to it.
And we're going to do the same. But before we get into this, are we
going to talk about Whitney?
Yeah, we're also going to talk about Whitney, but
that song is
briefly. Okay, so
No Matter Where We Go?
Yeah, the reason that we chose these songs because we're just they weren't arbitrarily chosen.
They were close to arbitrarily chosen.
Okay, so this is something that we're borrowing from Ezra Koenig of Vampire Weekend's bi-weekly podcast, Time Crisis, which is on Apple Music, which don't pay us to give that advertisement. So speaking as a fan, they do a top 5 iTunes chart thing. They have access to music because they're part of Apple Music. We're not. So we don't have access to play anything legally. So that's why JT's Can't Stop the Feeling, that's the #1 song on Apple Music.
That's why we're talking
iTunes
about that.
chart.
For sure.
Whitney's No Matter Where We Go is a song of the day on KCRW, which is a local college-run radio station
here in Southern California.
Which has a pretty big, they do Morning Becomes Eclectic.
Yeah, and I actually started listening to them, down here, but I listened to them in San Francisco when I was living there as well.
Yeah, so not completely arbitrary on our part, but how these people came up with these songs. iTunes, I don't know if that goes by downloads or streams or what. And I don't know. KCRW, they just put whatever they want, I guess. So
we don't know.
They choose arbitrarily, maybe, but we don't. We're going with them.
And we are going to continue talking about this stuff, right? These are going to continue to be our sources until we find 2 better sources? Yeah,
we're going to continue to use iTunes just from like a mainstream kind of top 40 perspective, and then we're going to go to KCRW to kind of cover the independent music and the more, not mainstream stuff. So right now...
Both are major labels, though, no?
What's a major label?
Who cares? The point is, we're going to pause...
The Justin Timberlake movies for the Troll, or songs for the Troll movie.
The Troll movie?
There's a DreamWorks Troll movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's another.
Big
we're not
troll.
being endorsed.
Big fucking
we're not
giant.
being endorsed by. No, I think it's called Trolls.
Oh, okay.
I think it's about trolls, the troll dolls.
Troll dolls?
I don't know if this is for sure what the movie is.
This sounds like a movie that would have been greenlighted in 2001.
Well, see, it's like a retro throwback.
Oh, God.
We're bringing the trolls back.
This
could
happens.
Just be a completely separate movie about trolls.
This is because my generation is now executives.
Yeah, they're like, you know what I miss?
You know what I miss? Voltron.
Oh, that's true. You're watching Voltron.
I am watching Voltron. Maybe you'll watch it.
I probably won't. I have no reason to watch Voltron other than you watch it and you say you like it, and I don't have any context where I'm like, oh, Voltron's back?
Steven Yeun of Walking Dead fame.
Okay, but see, that's what I mean. That has nothing.
He plays a minor character.
That has nothing to do with Voltron.
No.
So you're watching it because of Voltron.
I am watching it because of Voltron.
I would only be watching it because you liked Voltron.
Also, the creators of some other show that I like, some other cartoon.
Okay. Anyway,
the point is, I'm
older.
I'm watching cartoons.
That's not the point. The point is, we're going to listen to Justin Timberlake, "Can't Stop the Feeling," and you should also listen to Justin Timberlake, "Can't Stop the Feeling," and then we'll be right back after we listen to the song. We'll talk about it.
Are we coming back?
So we're back.
All right.
I can't believe I listened to that song twice today.
Yeah, it should be noted. We said we're going to listen to it. We have heard it before. We just wanted a fresh take. Maybe we would have more to say. What'd you think?
Well, all right. So before we get into it, I think that all right, we don't have any qualifications to talk about music. What does that even mean, though? What is a qualification to talk about music? We're not tastemakers. We're fans. So we're coming to music from the perspective of people who appreciate art and see music as an art form. So expect art from music.
Yes,
as not just people who enjoy listening to music and people who enjoy talking about art, but people who make art as well. In the sense that I'm a musician in a band.
Dane makes music.
SoundCloud.com/UnByTelevision. You're a photographer, graphic designer.
Starving artist.
Starving artist, aren't we all? So, yes, those are our only qualifications to talk about the thing.
I went to art school, not for music.
Okay, yeah, you went to art school. I went to college, so
yeah. So we understand talking about stuff.
Yeah, talking about stuff is something that we spent years doing.
Many years' experience.
We've paid many dollars to talk.
We've paid many dollars to talk?
Well, school costs money.
Ah, yes. We have been paid many dollars to talk?
We haven't been paid.
No, we haven't been paid.
In a sense, but I mean, we... Yeah, anyway, let's talk about the song. Did you like the song? Did I like the song? No, I didn't like the song. So... Can't Stop the Feeling is a song by Justin Timberlake for the Trolls movie, which is indeed the Troll Dolls.
Right.
We just found out. Something I found that was funny. The editor's notes on iTunes say, JT offers up an unstoppable burst of trademark falsetto and positive vibes. And I think that's a very generic description, but for a very generic sounding song. The song sounds like it was written to be a song of the summer.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like, it was a song of the summer, Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake. No, it was like Justin Timberlake went in there with the Trolls people.
Said, you know what?
And the Trolls people were like, Justin, we need a song of the summer for our Trolls movie, the movie of the summer. And Justin Timberlake went to Max Martin, who produced the song, and said, Max Martin, we need a song of the summer. And Max Martin... who's not unfamiliar with Songs of the Summer, being the producer for NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. I don't know if it's Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. I don't know. He's responsible for Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, all that pop crap. Some Katy Perry songs, I think. Okay. Maybe a couple of Miley Cyrus's in there.
Okay. So he's done something since...
He's been around.
Since the late 90s, early 00s.
I think he's
been working.
Swedish? Maybe?
British?
No, I think he's Swedish.
Okay.
And I think that he's one of those Swedish hit makers. You know, they got a lot of those. They like pop music.
They like the pop music, with the ABBA, and the Eurovision.
Yeah, so they know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about.
Right. Also, did not like it.
Okay.
About the third time I thought it was over, I thought, I can't believe I've asked people to listen to this.
Now, do you think we lost any chance of having listeners over the suggestion that you listen to that? I mean, obviously, a lot of people are listening to the song. It's number 1 on the iTunes chart.
People like it.
So,
we're probably going to lose more interest.
Do you like Justin Timberlake? Because I like Justin Timberlake in a sense. Okay, so when I grew up, Justin Timberlake was in NSYNC, so he was the leader of NSYNC. To me, he's the leader of NSYNC.
Right.
And back then, I didn't listen to pop music, or maybe I did, but I wouldn't call myself a music fan back then.
You listened to music in a casual,
almost like I wasn't conscious when I was listening to music back then. When I started really thinking about music and what music I like and what music I don't like, I did like Future Sex Love Sounds, the album Justin did with Timbaland. I think that's a really good album. And I think his first album, which is like a mix of production between Timbaland and the Neptunes, or I don't know if it's just Pharrell at that point.
No, I think it's
the Neptunes.
Yeah, because they were doing Missy
Both
Elliott.
producers I like, who they both do really cool, Neptunes and Timbaland. Because the Neptunes is 2 guys. I like both of those producers. So Justin Timberlake's got a good voice and reminds me of Michael Jackson and sometimes reminds me of Prince and is also very modern. So I like those albums. I think that they're pretty good. He released a 3rd album, which was really, 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 really poppy, again with Timbaland. But I like that album too a lot. Then he released a part 2, and that's when I like turned on him. That to me was just like, oh, more pop crap.
Right.
And I'm not like super averse to pop or whatever, but yeah, didn't like his part 2 2020 experience or whatever. Definitely don't like the Trolls song.
Right.
So I wasn't listening with high expectations, but I was definitely thinking, maybe this will be good. Hopefully this will be good. I mean, if there's going to be another Justin Timberlake song in the world, I want it to be good.
Right.
So it's not, and I will never actively seek out listening to this song again, but I'm sure that I'll hear it again many times to come.
Okay.
This is maybe my 4th or 5th time hearing the song.
That's my second or third.
Definitely don't like the song more.
I also didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny to find out that the producer did it in sync, because I too liked JT's stuff when he first came out solo. I thought, I kind of like this. And at the time, I was listening. I was very disenfranchised with modern music at the time. There was modern music that was good, but it wasn't popular. So I had like gone into hiding, and I was listening to music from the 70s and a little bit from the 80s, and I just kind of stopped. So he was.
So is this around the time that you would be in college?
Yeah, this was around the time I was in college.
So this was your college era.
Yeah, music. my college era music was.
So you were going back into like the Velvet Underground and.
Yeah, it was all
obscure 70s stuff. And
it was all like glam rock and new wave and punk rock and then and then underground hip hop, because there was a nice movement in San Francisco with Hieroglyphics crew. That's when
Del the Funky Homo Sapien.
Del the Funky Homo Sapien. And then there was stuff that was happening that I didn't even know about, like Mos Def and Talib Kweli's project, Black Star, which I didn't find out for years later. But it was a lot harder.
So
It was a lot harder to find music then. Napster was around and big.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't part of that scene. I didn't. I think I used my roommate's computer, so
it wasn't as convenient.
It wasn't as convenient as. Hey, there's a song, go listen to it.
Yeah, there wasn't a YouTube to go.
There probably was a YouTube.
But
no, there wasn't a YouTube.
But albums definitely weren't on YouTube.
Definitely
the way
not.
They are now.
No.
Now you can find almost any album.
Yes.
If it has a big enough fan base that's on YouTube. And even some albums that don't have any fan base.
Right. So Justin Timberlake, his music was popular, and people at work were showing it to me, people who listened to stuff I didn't like.
And when you say work, what is this? Is this like retail?
I was doing retail. This particular coworker, I had 2 jobs at the time. I remember very clearly because...
Okay, so paint a picture for me. It's early O's.
It's early O's.
You're in San Francisco. You're working at...
I'm very metrosexual.
Okay.
And
not what I asked. But...
I'm working in a women's shoe store that sells only imported shoes or finally handmade shoes.
Okay.
So...
And you're using your roommate's computer and downloading Mos Def. That's what's going on.
Not true. But yes, that's basically the story. And I have a coworker who listens to just a lot of stuff I don't like, and she puts on some Justin Timberlake, and I think, what? Wait, the guy from NSYNC?
Mm-hmm.
And I like it. And I never...
And do you remember is this like Crimea River Justin Timberlake?
Yeah, it's Crimea River is the song that made me say, what's going on over there? Because I'm thinking NSYNC guy who... Now I don't even know what songs are in sync, or Backstreet Boys, or the 98 Degrees. Like, I don't know what's what. But
the boy band bubble just burst.
But the boy band bubble just burst, maybe because Justin Timberlake and his crew left. Martin, what's his name? Martin Starr?
Max Martin?
Max Martin.
I don't think he produced everything by NSYNC, but I think that...
I know there was some sort of falling out, some sort of... And I guess that's a theme here, right?
Was it a falling out, or...
Isn't NSYNC the band that left their big-time producer who made them famous and said, no, we're going to do our own thing? That's why they had like a puppet video Because they're not puppets anymore.
Whoa, I had no idea. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there's that much substance behind anything NSYNC did.
Only that one, I think.
Okay.
It's the
I have no idea.
That sounds like a pop song, right? We're not puppets anymore?
No. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about Bye Bye Bye.
Okay.
But, yeah, I didn't know that.
Is that the May song? That's the meme?
No, I think that's a different one.
Okay.
It's Mayday, or it's Payday, or it's May.
I think it's going to be me is the line, but the joke is it's going to be May.
Oh, okay. I get it.
So
I have no idea if it's...
Whenever May comes around, there's a meme.
I found no need to reacquaint myself with NSYNC.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't
jump
know.
back into that world.
I don't know.
Even as a Justin Timberlake fan, I'm not thinking maybe there was more to NSYNC than I thought, and apparently there was more to NSYNC than I thought.
There is. Apparently.
I don't know if that's what happened. I do know that Justin Timberlake, I think, tried to distance himself from the boy band image, and maybe that's why he worked with Timbaland and Pharrell, and trying to give himself like a more, I don't know, harder edge to his music, not so pop, more.
Yeah, I mean, when that song came out, it was, here's your boy band sweetheart being a stalker. Yeah. So it was a twist. And as a creative person, I found that interesting. And the music was cool. So, but I never got into like the albums, because I remember that coworker, she showed me this song that I liked, and she showed me the album, and there was like 4 songs I liked. So when the next album came out, which I think was better, I never bothered to get into it, but I think I liked more songs off of that. And I'm not even sure which one's the third and which one's the fourth.
Justin Timberlake album?
Yeah. Okay. I might actually be thinking I like the second and it's the third.
You should really think of the third album as... The third and fourth album as one album.
What's the one where he's like...
Because it's a 2020 Experience Part 1
on a rocket ship?
And Part 2. Rocket ship?
And then there's like a bubblegum song.
Oh, that is the third album.
That's the album I got to listen to on my own. And I liked it, but I didn't think it was anything great.
Yeah.
But I liked it.
Yeah.
I did like it.
Yeah, it's the second one that's bad.
So when I listened...
Then he has that whole Take Back the Night controversy where, like, he used the name of, like, some I don't even know. I think it's some group about... it's like a rape survivor group or something like that. I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but he took the name. Apparently, he had never heard of "Take Back the Night."
Oh,
but yeah, so there was a bunch of controversy surrounding that song, and that song just sucked to begin with. Yeah. So yeah, that. But like that's not what made the second part of the album bad. But the second part of the album was bad.
When you make a song, and you come up with the title because you're mindful of titles. Do you Google it?
No.
Interesting.
But I don't ever think I come up with a song title that's that generic as "Take Back the Night."
Take Back the Night isn't. You as a writer, I would imagine, very much disliking that name. You would see it as very trite. Am I correct in that assumption?
I don't think it's good. And I think of it. I don't think of the support group because I didn't know about them prior to the song. So in thinking about the song, I think about like the context. It's like a party song or whatever. I don't know. I just think it's lame.
Right.
I have a problem with party song lyrics because they're always trite. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you are talking about a party. Right. So or the night, you know. So yeah.
Which my generation, the night is not frowned upon the way that you frown upon it.
Well, I'm not frowning upon it. I'm just saying that, you know, it's not that important. So it's like, how much substance are you going to put? How much? It doesn't need substance.
Right. It's a party song.
It's a party song. And I have nothing against substanceless songs, but I guess when they're really bad, they just get to me more that they lack substance. Right. So not against party songs, just against party songs that also happen to be bad.
So just against bad songs.
Just against bad songs.
Just against bad songs.
Yeah.
So back to Can't Stop the Feeling, which sounds like it's titled to be a summer track as well. I
See, that's another generic.
right.
Can't stop the feeling.
Can't stop the feeling. Bring on the night. What was it?
Take back the night.
Take back the night.
Yeah.
So
and this is another feel good party song too. I mean, there is a line "Dance, Dance, Dance" is in the song. So
right.
It's very much a party song,
which I didn't mind when David Bowie did it.
Did he do a Dance, Dance, Dance? I know he did Let's Dance.
No, there was a dance.
Was it Dance Magic Dance from Labyrinth?
That's right. Dance Magic Dance. Anyway, my background with JT has been, I like that guy, even though I don't really know.
And then
that
he's
much.
funny, so
I do like that part a lot.
Yeah, that lends itself.
I did. I remember finding out that I liked him as a comedic player in SNL,
mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh man, now I like Justin Timberlake. Like I like that song. I like these skits. I like Justin Timberlake.
I've heard 3 Justin Timberlake albums, one on my own.
Yeah. I must like him.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I'm clearly a fan.
You're going to have to start calling him JT now.
I do, but that's more laziness. But, back to the song, I actually had high hopes. And I was very disappointed.
I didn't have high hopes, just knowing it was for the Trolls movie.
And well, I didn't know that part.
Okay.
I also didn't know that it was Martin Starr who produced it.
Max Martin.
And but when I first heard it...
Martin Starr.
When I first heard it, Martin Starr should tweet us if he has a Twitter. We should get a Twitter.
Martin Starr should produce Justin Timberlake. Forget tweeting.
Yeah. So that should be the thing. Just get actors to produce pop songs and see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens. It'll be like a conceptual art project.
Yeah. Do you know who would be on board for that? Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
So, when I heard it, I thought, ugh, sounds like NSYNC.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I don't really know which one NSYNC is, so it's very, very unfair. It was very much me being judgy.
Okay.
But that's what I thought, and I was right.
In a sense, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was totally
it was
right.
Definitely very reminiscent of NSYNC. But I think that makes sense. I think that is kind of reoccurring in society right now.
Which goes back to what we were talking about.
The music world is very much a part. I mean, even if you look into parallels of NSYNC and One Direction.
Uh-huh. I don't know anything about One Direction.
Well, One Direction had a member leave. I think it was this year.
The brown one left. That's all I know.
Zayn Malik left, yeah. And I guess Harry Styles just left this week or something like that. So that's breaking up. And they're going to become...
Solo artists,
their own artists. Zayn already has a song out.
Mm-hmm. We talked about Vampire Weekend. That boy band broke up recently.
Yeah, Vampire Weekend is my favorite boy band that broke up.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't break up because I guess there's still going to be more Vampire Weekend. But Vampire Weekend, as we know it, is no longer Vampire Weekend.
But again, the brown one left.
Yeah, that seems to be a trend.
Mm-hmm.
The people of color are going out and making a name for themselves. We don't need the establishment of our white friends anymore to make art.
We can do it on our own.
We can stand on our own. So,
Si se puede.
Big ups for Zayn Malik and Rassam of Vampire Weekend. Yeah.
Cool.
So I think we could. That's a good segue to go into our more indie artists.
Right.
Since we were just talking about indie bands briefly.
So we're going
to listen to Whitney's
No Matter Where We Go.
No Matter Where We Go by Whitney.
No Matter Where We Go.
You listen to No Matter Where We Go by Whitney, and we're going to listen to No Matter Where We Go by Whitney, and then we're going to talk about it and see where we go.
Then we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, all right. All right, so we just listened to Whitney's...
Bring Back the Night?
No. Crap. No Matter Where We Go. And you know what? Let me just say, as a person who makes songs and as a creative person who titles things, Can't Stop the Feeling and No Matter Where We Go are so generic that they're not memorable.
So he just looked at my notes to read those titles, and when he finished that statement, he threw the notes at me. That's the way he feels about these titles.
I had to reference the Justin Timberlake, and I'm not one of those people who thinks songs should be titled whatever the song says the most. But the Justin Timberlake song should have just been called Dance, 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 because it's the only thing I remember for that song.
Isn't it more?
This Whitney song should have been called With You with the Windows Down, because that's the line that I remember most. And I'm not happy to say that the second time hearing that song, I did enjoy it more than the first time I heard it.
You did enjoy it more.
I'm not saying I liked it.
Okay.
I'm just saying I did like it a lot more the second time I heard it as opposed to the first, which this is the first time I've heard this song.
Right.
So for anybody who doesn't know, Whitney is a band from Chicago that consists of members of the Smith Westerns, who aren't a band anymore, and also another band, Unknown Mortal Orchestra, which is another kind of like a guitar indie band. No, I think they're still around. I think it's this is probably a side project for whoever's involved in that.
Okay.
And the song was also produced by Foxygen member Jonathan Ratto.
Ooh.
And I think that there are a lot of, you can hear a lot of that Foxygen single that came out a couple of years ago, How Can You Really? Mm-hmm. There's a jangly...
Yeah, I put whimsy, bouncy.
Yeah, there's both songs have that. They don't sound the same, but they have the same feeling. Mm-hmm. Another a funny thing about this song is it very much sounds to me like a song for the summer.
Yeah.
Not written as Justin Timberlake was like, I'm going to write a song in the summer. I don't think they set out to write a song in the summer. But
this is a song that in October, November, it's going to remind you
about barbecue.
Yes.
Yeah, or the 4th of July that you're going to have.
Right.
Or something like that.
So this 4th of July, listen to Whitney. Yeah, I didn't like it. I guess I liked it more the second time, but it's one of those things, like, it's not offensive.
Okay.
Which, it should be noted, music that I don't like, I often find offensive to my ears. I mean, I don't think we...
This doesn't elicit much of anything from you.
Right.
You don't hate it, but you don't...
I'm indifferent to it, and that makes me dislike it.
Yeah, okay. So because it's not doing anything for you,
right,
that's a point against it.
That's a point against it.
I think it's worth saying that, okay, so one half of Smith Westerns went off to form Whitney, and then the principal singer for the Smith Westerns is on his own solo thing, and that's Colin Omari. I will say that I enjoy Colin Omari more than I enjoy Whitney, because I feel like I get more out of the music than just, to me, and this is going to sound mean, but it's kind of background music, you know? Yeah, it is something that you soundtrack a barbecue to.
Right.
It's not really something that you need to listen to intently to enjoy it. See, I think that's different, because if we were having a barbecue and this song came on, I wouldn't mind it. I would think it was that's a good song to put on in this moment. If the Justin Timberlake song came on, I'd be like, why are we playing this song right now?
Right.
So...
Do you think that if somebody put on the JT song, you would think they're trying to get something started, and that's why it'd bother you?
Like, I put this song on to be ironic kind of thing?
No, I imagine somebody, let's get this party going, and it's like, this is not a party, we're just eating some barbecue. Oh. You know?
Or it would be somebody contriving a moment as much as the song is contrived.
Yes. So I don't think we came up with these two tracks or these two music commentative sources to compare the two.
Looking for songs of the summer.
Well, definitely not that. But I mean, we didn't pick these songs, or we didn't pick these two places to say this is what iTunes says and this is what KCRW says, and what do we think about the two of them together. But I think that's naturally going to happen. So that's what's happening. Mm-hmm. When I listen to that JT song, it doesn't bother me until it does.
The worst part about the
It's just so long.
That's the worst part about it.
And it's only 3.5 minutes?
It doesn't feel like it ends, and that dance, dance, dance part happens at least 5 or 6 times. Which I think
feels like it ends 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, I think that's Max Martin's kind of like skill or trick or whatever. Is he hammers these hooks into you that it's impossible for them to leave your head. So I've already forgotten what the Whitney song sounds like, but I haven't forgotten what the Dance, Dance, Dance sounds like.
Opposite. I don't
It took
remember.
away. It cleansed your
It
palate.
cleansed my palate.
Well, I wish that would have happened because I enjoy the Whitney song more.
Yeah, Whitney. It's like
But
the coffee
what
for your ears.
don't you like about the Whitney song?
Really, what I don't like about it is the lack of effect it has on me. It has a somewhat nostalgic vibe to me. To me, that's what makes it sound like summer, but it sounds like the sunset of summer.
Yeah.
It sounds like...
You're driving home.
What's the name of the... Well, no, because I don't live in a world of driving. Well, I do now, but I don't think of life in driving home styles.
There's a melancholy moment that happens.
But it's not melancholy.
No. But if you go on like a camping trip or something like that, or if you go on
where it's over
some kind of trip
back to work,
there's this feeling when you're leaving, you're driving back to the world that you actually come from, and it seems very reminiscent of that feeling. That you're It
reminded me. It had a tinge of the feeling that I get from, I think it's called David's Last Summer by Pulp.
Okay.
But not enough. None of the cool, good stuff about it.
Mm-hmm.
The lyrics didn't jump out to me at all. The music, there was a sort of, like I said before, a sort of whimsy, bouncy quality to it, but it still in the end was a lame song for me.
Yeah,
it was a little bit less lame the second time I heard it, but I wouldn't put it on.
I think that's a general kind of thing that seems to be going around the like indie music world.
What's that?
Because
the feeling of the end?
No. Take Whitney is popular. Like Whitney's doing well for themselves.
Oh.
They're kind of like a buzz band or whatever. People like Whitney. People are all about Whitney.
Okay.
Not a lot of people talking about Colin Omari.
Really?
Yeah.
I liked it. And I mean, I didn't think it was great.
Yeah, but I think it's significantly better.
Yeah.
This sounds too much like it gives into this kind of chilling trend that seems to be going around amongst like indie music. Everybody wants to just kind of like relax and chill. That's why things like Mac DeMarco are super in.
Right.
So I think it lends itself more to that. And maybe that's why that seems to be the vibe that people want out of their music now, is this kind of like, I just want to, I don't know.
I don't
like it though.
I think that music is starting to no longer be made for your generation. It certainly is no longer made for my generation. We're not a buying group. But it, like I've said before, I think that the era of millennials cutoff isn't really known. But I do think that your generation,
the people in high school now,
not your generation,
not this generation,
the people in college now, maybe not this generation.
I think the people in college, because that's who's listening to.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I feel like this stuff kind of started off a little bit earlier. This started. Earlier. I think your generation was the generation of nostalgia.
Yeah, and I think that started with chillwave.
Right, and
because the millennial generation, in terms of music, there is a half and half point. There is a part where it breaks off, and it becomes this other thing.
It's interesting that this comes back to that topic of making money versus sticking to the story, letting the piece of work live its course, right? I don't know that no matter where we go does that, but I definitely think that Can't Stop the Feeling is contrived to be the number one summer jam, and I don't see anything wrong with trying to make the number one summer jam.
No, I was just saying there's a level of disingenuousness in the song that you could sense.
You feel it.
Where it feels like they're trying to make a song that you're going to love. Right. And that gets stuck in your head.
And that's distracting.
And that manufactured thing about pop music is what the turnoff is. Which is why in a generation that is so interested in personal branding and aesthetic and blah, 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 it doesn't make any sense to me that they would be so for pop music when it's so contrived and constructed
And not personal.
Yeah. Just made to sound that way. And it's like they know they're being tricked and they don't even care. And that's the weird thing to me, because it doesn't like jive with what the generation presents itself as.
Do you think that the Whitney song sounds contrived as well?
No.
I do, because it reminds me of, you talked about like that time of indie that broke off.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of broke off into, what did you call it?
I said that Poptimism?
Poptimism, yes. Okay. It sounds like that. It sounds like the music that was made when the record companies realized, hey, there's some real money to be made in these indie artists.
Yeah.
And it feels like that to me. So it doesn't feel any better.
I think there is a sense in listening to new indie bands that it almost feels... And maybe this is me just projecting my own beliefs onto it, but it almost feels like the people who are making it know. Just give them something easy to put on and listen to. I feel like I get the sense of that when I hear people not trying to do anything that progresses anything.
Right. And you and I are both very much interested in art for art's sake and the progression of any given medium.
Yeah,
right?
To me, I think you should always be trying to push the medium itself forward. And if you're not doing something to push the medium forward, then you're not doing anything for the art, and therefore I'm not saying you shouldn't be listened to, but that's what it feels like the feeling used to be.
Right.
If you're not doing something that's weird and makes people uncomfortable, then you're not making good music. You're making the crap that everybody else listens to. And now it's shifted, where if you're not making something for people, why don't you just not put it out then?
Right, because everybody can put out something, so why are you putting out something?
Yeah.
If you're not even doing it for me.
Yeah.
You should be doing it for me.
Yeah. So that jives with the millennial in the sense that...
Yeah.
Which is, that makes me think of the whole Frank Ocean thing. It's popular amongst my generation to create these memes now or not even memes, just like mentioning the fact that we're all waiting on a Frank Ocean album. Mm-hmm. And it still isn't out yet. Like, people take pictures of him out in the world.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, look at Frank Ocean not making
an album. Yeah, they're doing that with Ger Martin as well.
So that's all they seem to... I don't know, they just seem to care about themselves. Nobody cares if Frank Ocean's album's good. They just want the Frank Ocean album as soon as possible.
Do you think they're going to like it no matter what?
I don't know. Part of me thinks they're going to like it no matter what, unless it's really, really different. In which case, I think people won't like it, and people will be disappointed. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like what happened with MGMT.
Right.
MGMT was this huge, huge, huge band when their first album came out.
Which was okay.
And yeah, which was just okay. And they released Congratulations,
which really,
had way
really
more
good.
Substance, was way more interesting, but didn't have any big pop songs on it. Mm-hmm. So people kind of turned on them. And I think that's kind of where it started too, this general turn away from making stuff that's more challenging and interesting towards making stuff that's more easily digestible. Mm-hmm. I think that happened around that time.
So does this go back to the idea of...
I think the next Frank Ocean album is going to be great. I'm hoping it's polarizing for other people. I hope that
people don't like
an album and people don't like it. Because I do think that that's what the medium needs. The medium needs new ideas because there aren't a lot of new ideas out there, and I think it's stale.
Right.
And I don't think it's just a case of, they're not making music for your generation anymore. Because plenty of people in my generation like the music. Right. Which is me who does it.
Yeah.
So...
Well, no, but I do think that they're not making music for your generation anymore because people who spend are younger people. And
yeah, but the people who make the music are still of the generation. And I don't think they're that commercially minded where they're thinking... we got to make it for the kids. The kids are going to buy the shirts. I don't think they're thinking about that. They're just trying to make the art that they make.
Uh-huh.
And, it's going to get categorized and put into whatever boxes people decide or publications decide to put it in. So it's out of their hands. So because the music is being made by millennials, I think that they're still making it for, I guess, my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not with it. So
I don't know. I don't know that they are. I don't know that it's that simple, that there is just a mindset. I think when you're creative, you're slightly separate from your generation.
Yeah,
which doesn't really make sense.
No, but I think if you're in a band too, there comes that moment when you go on tour, you're essentially living in a bubble for that whole time because you don't know what's coming out and what people are talking about. You kind of just know what's going on in your immediate life, which is you.
Right.
Because you're playing shows for your own band, so.
Yeah, I remember this interview with Grizzly Bear, and they talked about what it was like when they were on tour, and what they were listening to were cassette tapes.
Mm-hmm.
But not like in some cool, hip way. It was just like, we have this van and it has a cassette tape player, and we have a bunch of old cassette tapes from the 80s.
So that ends up becoming kind of the influence on whatever the next work is.
Right, because that's what they were listening to.
Yeah.
So, that's... And they're definitely a group I find to be contributing to music as an art form versus music as an entertainment form. And I don't think that they're mutually exclusive, but I do think that there can be a difference, and I'm more inclined to like something that's moving the art forward.
Yeah.
Whereas with film, which is how we started this off, I was a little... I am, in general, more open to film for entertainment's sake.
Mm-hmm.
But it is more interesting to me if you get both.
Why? Is that because with a film you only watch it once? And I don't mean you never rewatch the movie again, but because it's like a one-time... Because when you're going to see a film, you're going to go see that film, and then you're not going to see it the next day or the next hour, unless you're like a super fan. But with music, that's something you live with.
Right. So you would think that I'd want it to be more entertaining?
No, I would think that you would want more substance, less entertainment. I'm saying is the reason you think that way
because of that. Possibly. I think with film I have more moods. And let's include television in this, because television has a big part in entertainment right now. Television as an art form and storytelling and all these things, television is big. Television is a big deal right now. I think when I listen to music, there are different times and different moods that I listen to music when I'm doing it by myself.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I'm the opposite. Like, I love Radiohead, but I'm not always in the mood to listen to Radiohead.
Right. The thing with music...
That means, like, even if you put a Radiohead song that I like, I'm not going to be like, yeah, leave it on. I'm going to be like, I don't want to hear this right now. I'm not in the mood for this. Right. So that's how I listen to music.
Well, see, when I listen to music, if I'm doing it on my own, then I want to listen to something that's a little bit more interesting. Sometimes I'm listening to music in a very detached way, where it is background music.
You're more focused on it when you're doing it individually,
right.
So you want something that's
But then I also listen to it when I don't want to be focused on it, when I'm focused on something else.
Mm-hmm.
And in those cases, it doesn't hurt to have the same music on.
Mm-hmm.
I could even listen to Metal Machine music. It's a four-sided album by Lou Reed, and it's two guitars leaned up against amps, and it's all feedback, and most people would think it's not music at all.
Yeah.
I can listen to that while I'm doing something else. So I can do it in a detached way, the same way somebody might want to have on that Whitney song, because I don't know, it doesn't interfere.
What's the name of the Whitney song?
Gotta stop moving wherever we go, whatever we do, no matter where we go. Yeah, it's off. Can't stop the feeling. Yeah, so I think that's part of it. Then there's music as entertainment, and that's when I go to a show, so I'm not putting it on, so it's not really for up to me. Like, I'll like a band live that I wouldn't necessarily ever buy the music of or pay the ticket price to go see them. Like if I'm at a festival, I might like a band. I might say, oh yeah, they put on a really good show. It's one of those the bands. It's not the National. Maybe it is the National. The Walkmen. I saw them live. I thought they put on a great show. I don't think they're that good.
Yeah.
But it was entertaining. And
that's how I feel about Tori Moi.
Yeah.
Like
I never saw Tori Moi.
I can listen to maybe one Tori Moi album, but generally I think it's just a little too passive for me to really get into. But live, it's more fun. It's like a party.
Right.
You get to interact with the songs more, and you see how the songs are like rhythmic and movable, whereas when you listen to the recordings, they just seem kind of static.
Right. Well, that's the other thing, is sometimes it'll be dance music or it'll be something that's more party-like, in which case I'm going to a club and listening to a DJ play music or whatever. I could be at a wedding and that music could come on and it will be good because I'm in a dancing environment. But again, it's not me picking it.
Yeah.
And if I were to pick it, it would be different. With film, it's very different. Maybe I'm watching a movie while I'm eating. So I don't really want to be super invested, you know? I'm not going to watch...
That's what I think YouTube videos are good for.
For eating?
For eating, and if you're like, you want something on that's not music, like you want to hear something, so you want to hear information, but you don't care to pay attention too much.
Right.
You watch a YouTube video while you're like cleaning your room or while you're eating some food.
Yeah.
And it takes the amount of time that it takes to do those things.
You know what's good for when you're cleaning your room?
What?
A podcast.
That's when you're cleaning, that's when you're doing...
The whole house?
Yeah, that's when you're doing like a big cleaning project.
Okay.
When you're just like, oh, I'm going to eat this cheeseburger, or, oh, I'm going to, get dressed for wherever I'm going.
That's a 10-minute YouTube video.
Yeah, that's a 10-minute YouTube video. So that's like the perfect thing to put on.
Right. I'd rather watch Voltron. No, Voltron I actually watch.
See, I feel like that's something you have to watch.
Yeah, I do actually watch that.
I mean, not all YouTube. You can't put like... I wouldn't say like, oh yeah.
You wouldn't watch a makeup tutorial while you're cleaning your room.
Or you wouldn't watch like a game or film theory, because that's something that you need to pay attention to. So it's more something that's like a general news or like, something that you don't really care about, but you're interested enough to watch a video for.
Right. And then sometimes I want to watch something to wind down my day. The same way in ye olden times you'd read a book before bed. I want to watch a movie that's subpar. But good, entertainment. It's still entertaining. You're still watching it. You're still interested in the story or the characters or what have you.
You want something to hold your hand on the way to
Slumberland.
To slumber.
Yeah. But, there are other times where it's like, this is an event. I'm going to watch this 4-hour Kurosawa film and read all the subtitles, and I'm going to think about it, and I want to be challenged that way. So, I have a broader spectrum. I guess I have a broader spectrum that's in my control with film and television, whereas with music, there's a lot of environments in which I don't have the control of the music. So I'm more acceptable to music. And those places where I want music to be more entertainment than thought-provoking or contemplative or what have you, those aren't places where I have the control to decide, what's what.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yeah. Like, what was the name of the band that this band came out of?
The Smith Westerns.
The Smith Westerns. You introduced me to that band. I listened to the album. I liked it. It wasn't spectacular, but I liked it. And I thought it was good. And when I went to go see Yesayer, they opened up for them.
Yeah.
I actually stopped liking that band after I saw them live.
Oh, okay.
Which is strange because there's a lot of bands that I don't like, and I see them live and I think, that's where you need to see this music. That's why they got signed, because they were some nobody band who was out there playing, and people saw them play and thought, these guys are really good.
Yeah.
Because of the whole experience.
That's funny because I got into Yesayer through live performances. Seeing live performances of Yesayer got me into the band.
I got into them from Last FM.
Not any song that they had. Yeah, I saw the Takeaway show.
Yeah, the Takeaway show is good.
So I was like, wow, this band must be amazing.
Because
this Takeaway show is amazing. And I listened to...
Well, I thought it was just okay, right?
The funny thing is, I got really into them, and I was like, okay, I want to buy their album on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, before I buy this album on vinyl, I'm going to listen to their next album, which just leaked, which was Odd Blood. I'm going to listen to that to kind of like... So I can still listen to them. I don't want to ruin the album for me because I'm going to buy it.
Right.
And ended up liking Odd Blood
right.
way more than their first album.
Yeah.
And much of what I like about the band, I think I discovered in that album.
Yeah,
live performances and their second album is why I was into them.
I definitely like...
Ironically, I don't care for live performances of songs from their second album. Yeah.
Huh.
Maybe it's just like a context thing, wherever you hear
That's the word I was looking for, actually. Yeah, I think so. So, should we Brexit this whole podcast now?
Yeah, I think this is...
I think that's it, yeah.
I think this is a good time to Brexit until we're... Brack together again.
Until we're Brack together again.
For the next podcast.
We will...
Hopefully the iTunes top 1 song changes by next week.
Oh, we didn't consider that, did we?
Yeah, so it might be Justin. We might have to... I don't know if maybe we'll have to talk about number 2.
Yeah, I think... I hope we don't listen to that song again.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's a different song to shit all over.
But... Just to be clear,
we might have to choose a number 1 through 5 and just pick one of the top 5 songs and hope it's not Justin Timberlake.
Then the listeners can say, I wonder if they'll do 3 this week.
Yeah, I really like 3. I'm hoping they're going to do 3. They're going to talk about 3. Yeah, so I'm Dane for Generation Y.
And I am Keithen for Generation X. Do you want to tell people how to talk to you on the Twitters?
I guess if you were to follow me, or if you wanted to follow me, it's just at Little Paper Cone. That's my Twitter handle or whatever. You could also check out the Tumblr, which is littlepapercone.tumblr.com.
And I will hopefully put something together for the show itself.
Okay. And you should definitely listen to Eaten by Television, soundcloud.com/Eaten by Television.
Eaten by Television
for something
is good.
That is unlike both JT and Whitney. If you're looking to get away from Justin Timberlake, if you're looking to get away from songs of the summer, then you should definitely listen to me complain about it being too hot and the world ending and capitalism and all that good stuff.
All that good stuff. I will put any sort of Twitter information, maybe come up with a Reddit or something in the show notes. So if you have downloaded this from iTunes, you can find it there. If you're listening in YouTube, you can scroll down to the description, and we will be back in a week.
I was listening to them since the beginning. And then we'll make little pins, and it'll be hashtag Brack Together.
Brack Together again.
Yeah, Brack Together again. So yeah, that's it.
Do we have a sign off?
I don't know.
Do you have like a certain kind of catchphrase goodbye? Like, kikirikiri?
I think mine's just bye.